I am Captain Logan, and this is day 244 of Spawn Year. The only thing worse than guilt is doubt, that painful feeling of uncertainty gnawing away at you as you forge ahead with good intentions, desperately hoping to finally get it right this time around. I find Covenant a profoundly relatable character, a man who dug himself into a hole tempted by that which seemed like a good idea at the time, all the while knowing that what he'd gotten himself into was a foolish errand and missing all the signs of foregone eventual disaster. For Covenant, it was the Crusades. For me, it was creating Doomsvents. Both of us have worked so hard to make up for those mistakes and better ourselves, only to find ourselves time and again bested by the very same fallacies that led us to ruin in the first place. And so Covenant chose never to use his powers again, to refuse to be the pawn of evil if he could neither be a force for good. But his thirst for redemption was too great, and he allowed himself to be seduced by yet another holy crusade, and just as I suspected, that crusade ends with disastrous consequences. Covenant hoped he had simply chosen the wrong battles before, but that this would be the righteous cause that finally wiped his blighted record clean. Constantly wary, and that hesitation was totally warranted. God was not protecting Mauve and her army. In the end, they are all struck down by Cog's drug-induced heathen army, and only Spawn survives. Once again, Covenant puts his faith in a god he can't and could never trust, and what's worse, lets Cog take advantage of his weakness for his blood sacrifice in order to appeal to the Green World for asylum. Like Al, Covenant keeps making the same mistakes, so if he isn't learning from his errors, why do I care what happens to him in a way I don't with the present day Spawn? Some of it, I think, is attitude. Covenant isn't as self-absorbed or entitled as Al Simmons. He doesn't knowingly take advantage of others in pathetic, futile attempts at reclaiming his past life. Al is insecure and self-pitying, while Covenant is confused and searching for answers in a world where there are none, at least none that fit the universe as he was taught it. This Spawn is actively searching for a future, while struggling to escape his past, which is more endearing and laudable than a man who, in denial, avoids a future that's inevitably coming for him in the foolish errand of returning to his past. And again, Covenant has good reason to be so conflicted about whether Mauve may be really leading him on a truly righteous journey. And I can understand why he finds her certainty so provocative and irresistible. All Covenant yearns for is a definitive direction to go in. And I love that as the protagonist's greatest desire in a Spawn comic of all things. So here tragedy strikes as expected, but nobody wins. Covenant is left where he started, except with one more blood-laden, foolish crusade on his conscience. The steadfast and unwavering Mauve is impaled and killed, but also Cagliostro is rejected by the Green World. Lots of carnage, lots of tragedy, lots of grief, and that's about it. This story overall has a lot going for it, especially in Spawn and Mauve's layered and paralleling partnership. I especially like that despite Mauve's utter lack of wardrobe, designed for bored, severely sexually frustrated adolescent male readers who the book apparently thinks it can't keep entertained without exaggerated female figures and flying limbs, Mauve and Spawn never engage in anything even bordering on a romance. And yes, I realize in this day and age, a 100-year-old and a 14-year-old intimate relationship constitutes statutory rape and grade A wrongness, but the Dark Ages aren't really bound to present-day rules of morality or conduct. And I think winding up on a sex offender list would be the least of Covenant's problems anyway. But especially considering her age didn't stop McCormick Sharp from drawing Mauve like a Las Vegas showgirl, I'm impressed the story never goes there. It's not exactly a riveting or inspired conclusion though either. No interaction at all with the Green World, no specific concrete reasons Cagliostro is rejected by it, just a lame narration box about how the Green World won't entertain his plea, and Cog, with little or no remorse about all the needless lives he's taken in his own fool's errand, moves on into despair, knowing he'll likely never find a way out of his curse. I do like that Spawn's foe here is ultimately as lost and directionless as he is, despite acting like he has all the answers, but this story led with a bang and ends with a bit of a whimper. I had hoped for a climactic showdown between Spawn and Cog, especially since Al and Cog are now enemies in the present, and I'm only a little let down by that because last issue seemed to tease that pretty hard. I also feel like we're left with too many questions. The big one being where all of Mauve's supernatural predilections came from. Were they actually sent by God? If so, why? Did God want Mauve to round up a bunch of kids as an army only to get slaughtered by Cog's army? This story seemed quite straightforward until now. I know what Cog's game is, but no idea what Heaven or Hell is doing in this period. I get that God isn't the righteous deity Covenant wishes he was, but the book shouldn't be this ambiguous as to whether God is even involved in this story. Unfortunately, that maddening, sometimes crippling uncertainty is a part of life. And even when we lose, we at least finally have the relief of knowing if we were right or wrong. What if Captain Cagliostro was telling the truth, and this is all in my head and I could leave anytime I want? That I'm engaging in a fool's errand myself, and if I stay here for that terrible battle I'm being trained for, I'll never get my life back. I want so badly to be a better person, to learn from my mistakes, and that's why I continue to go with my guts, at least what's left of them. But what if I'm wrong? Well, at least I can take a little comfort in knowing that on day 365, I'll know. Signed, Captain Logan.